This is Dom Bettinelli, CEO of StarQuest. I need to ask for your help, but first I want to thank you for listening to StarQuest and supporting our mission of exploring the intersection of faith and pop culture. We've added 9 new shows since 2019, including, most recently, The Secrets of Middle-earth, just in time for the new Amazon streaming series. And we have plans to add even more, but the network needs additional resources. We need to bring on more audio editors, video editors, and production equipment, including video equipment for Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World and new shows we have in the planning stages. If you value this show and the other great shows on StarQuest, we need to hear from you now. If you're not yet one of our monthly patrons, please become one. And if you're already a patron, please consider increasing your monthly donation. There are many special patron benefits we'd like to give you, and you can learn more about them by going to sqpn.com/give and clicking Become a Patron. Your support at this time is crucial, so please go to sqpn.com/give today. That's sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bets. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, and our adventures near and far as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
So, Melanie, I want to start with a little bit of feedback we got from our listener, Mary Jean, who sent an email. We talked a little while ago about how I was dragging my feet on switching us from AT&T to Mint Mobile for phone service.
Yes, we did.
And I'm still dragging my feet.
Yes, you are.
I'll get to it.
Uh-huh. One of these days.
Well, Mary Jean writes to allay my fears. So at least that part. She says, my husband and I are in our 60s and use Mint Mobile after having had Verizon and T-Mobile previously. Our very skeptical and very frugal 36-year-old is a software engineer working for an Intel spin-off company. And after years of trying to convince him that Mint Mobile wasn't a terrible thing, he recently switched and is quite happy. Finally found something we could agree on in our family. If you decide to go with them, I hope you would also have a good experience. And if not, it's reversible, which it is. I don't want to screw up our phone numbers. Screwing up the phone numbers is a huge hassle. I don't
most phone companies let you transfer?
They do, but keep in mind, the last time I switched phone companies was like 2 decades ago when it was a huge pain in the neck. So just, I haven't done this in a long time. So, and part of it is I'm dreading calling AT&T and ending up in their retention department. Like, corporate retention departments are the worst.
You just say, sorry, no thank you, and hang up. Bye.
Well, no, because they need to do a thing on their end. You can't just say, no, thank you, goodbye. Like, you're relying on them to do a thing. So you have to put up with their nonsense and really, really, really convince them that you're done, even as they offer you everything under the sun to keep you.
Is that was true like 2 decades ago? Is that true?
No, this is also still true. I went through this when we switched from Comcast to Verizon for our cable. This is how corporate retention departments work, and they will offer you all kinds of things. And how can you crush my heart like this, you heartless person, leaving me here at the altar where I have expressed my undying love for you. It sometimes it feels like that with these corporate retention guys. So anyway, thank you, Mary Jean.
Thank you.
You have allayed some of my fears, and I will hopefully get to this soon. Yes. And then I'm going to kick myself because I'm like, why didn't I do this earlier? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know how it works. I hadn't get to my mid-50s without knowing, who I am and how this works. This is just me. Anyway, let's talk. Speaking of getting to know me.
Okay.
I recently completed, as some of you may know, some of you may even have participated in, an Ask Me Anything. Now, do you know what an Ask Me Anything is, Melanie?
I do.
What is an Ask Me Anything?
Usually somebody rather famous.
Thank you.
Goes on. Doesn't it start on Reddit?
It started on Reddit.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a celebrity thing.
Yeah, like a celebrity makes themselves available to answer any questions, like ask me anything.
Ask me literally anything.
And they promise to answer anything. I mean, I suppose they could say
there are limits, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But there's limits of propriety.
But the idea is
what's your bank account number?
An open-ended question and answer session.
where it's implied that you can ask off the wall things, or things that you didn't feel comfortable asking at other times. So I did it. We're starting with at StarQuest. We've started doing an Ask Me Anything on a regular basis, where I'm the first one up since I'm the guy in charge. And so I went first, and we did it over the course of 3 days. Actually, I kind of jumped the gun. It was supposed to be 2 days. It was supposed to be like Friday and Saturday, and I would open up the forum in our Discord community on Thursday. So I opened the forum, and questions started coming in. I started answering them right away. So really, it was a 3-day AMA. Sometimes you can do these live. So you have like a live stream, you show up at 3 p.m. Eastern for an hour, and I'll answer any question.
Right, that's what I kind of expected when you said you were going to do an Ask Me Anything.
That was the original plan, but then I kind of went back to the original concept, because part of it was what's a good time. Our community is scattered.
Well, there's that
everywhere in many time zones. So what's a good time, and when do I have time to sit down and focus on something like this? Right. And so I thought, just kind of make it easier for everyone and just throw the question there. And I promise I will be checking that forum on a regular basis and, answering the questions. And I think I did a pretty good job of getting to questions as they came in pretty readily. So we had 36 different questions that came in over the course of a few days.
Okay.
Which is nice. Now, I get it. When Jimmy Aiken does this, Jimmy Aiken did an AMA for a different Discord community, a Catholic Discord community. He spent 3 hours answering questions, one after another. He did dozens and dozens of questions. I know that people want to have questions for Jimmy. I have questions for Jimmy, but yeah. So I get it. And so 36 questions. I thought I was wondering if I'd get any. So I was prepared to start asking my co-hosts on different shows to show up and ask me questions and take pity on me. But we did get some questions, and so there were some fun ones. There was one that asked me, they were all fun ones. I liked them all, but there was a couple ones that kind of stood out that I thought I'd bring up with you, because I think you'd have something to say about it. So
well, you did read a few of them to me as they came in, and I was like answering for you.
Yes.
I knew what your answers would be.
So, someone asked, instant or deferred gratification. If 3 days before this Christmas, easy. If 3 days before this Christmas, your family told you they posted a list of their gifts to you in the Discord channel, hashtag bets spoilers, would you look?
100%. Yes, he would. I don't even have to think about that for a second. Yeah. Of course you would.
I didn't even pause. I'm like, yep, Melanie will tell you I am terrible at delayed gratification. I hate waiting for anything.
Which is like I am the opposite. Yes. I hate being spoiled, and I love anticipation. I would totally not.
Oh, I hate being spoiled, like for shows and books and things. So that's a little different.
No, but like gifts.
But gifts, yeah. Or like giving gifts or getting gifts. Like even giving, like if I buy you a gift, I don't want to wait to give it to you. I want to give it to you now.
It drives me nuts. I'm like, wait for my birthday or wait for Christmas. Like you want to give it to me as soon as it comes in.
Yes. Or I start hinting at it. I get you a gift and you're never going to guess. It's the size. Look, it's the box.
You want to rattle
it? Shake.
No. I want to wait. I like waiting.
When I was a kid, I knew where my mom hid the Christmas gifts, and I would sneak into her closet when she was at work and look at all the gifts.
See, I knew where my mom hid the gifts. I snuck in and looked at them once. It was Christmas morning was so disappointing because I knew exactly what I was going to open. There was no anticipation at all. I knew what was in the box. It was awful. It deprived me of my like I learned my lesson. Yep. I never did it again because I want the anticipation. I love opening the presents on Christmas. And if I already know what's in there, then like what's to look forward to?
My older brother, John, once got caught checking out the Christmas gifts, and my mom ended up giving me his Christmas gifts that year. Okay, which I didn't know.
That was not nice.
Evil Knievel stunt cycle.
I would never do that.
He got like clothes and stuff. He got stuff, but he didn't get anything good. I got the Evil Knievel stunt cycle with Stunt Fan. It was awesome.
How did he know it was his?
It probably had a bag with his name on it or something from Toys R Us. Yeah, or Child World. I think that was the toy store we had when I was a kid. A Child World. Anyway, and then there was Another one. Let's see. Say you're stranded. So you're stranded on an island with 10 books. Which books do you have and why? So I said Scripture and Divine Office. That's kind of, the standard I'm a good Catholic answers. Like, right. I mean, you got to throw those in there. But I mean, the Bible, obviously. Divine Office, pray with it. Give me something to do. Since I'm now apparently an involuntary hermit.
Right. You might as well make the most of your hermitage.
Yes. The Lord of the Rings, which is one book in 3 volumes. So I'm calling that on the technicality, one book.
I am totally on board with that.
He asked why as well. And I said, because it's the greatest work of fiction in English literature and infinitely rereadable. I would have Robinson Crusoe for ideas. The SAS Survival Handbook, which is the best survival handbook for every situation you'll encounter in life. That's how it's advertised. Frankly, if I'm on a desert island, I'm going to want something like that. Okay. And then Fulton Sheen's The Life of Christ, which is a beautiful meditation on Christ. The Chronicles of Narnia. Again, one story, many volumes.
That's pushing it, because I'm not sure if I've ever actually seen the Chronicles of Narnia in one book.
Yeah, I'm claiming it.
I've seen Lord of the Rings in one book. We own a 1 volume Lord of the Rings, but
now the last 3 are hard for me, because it's like, what do I add to that? Like, just three more books.
Complete works of William Shakespeare.
Yeah, we'll put that on your island.
No, but seriously, like, even you, like, if you were bored enough, wouldn't you not want?
Even you.
I mean, I know that you're not
as
like
a savage.
Yes. because it's like the greatest English literature.
Sure. Yes. If I thought that you would know what I picked, I would definitely pick Shakespeare. I mean, it's probably better. Yes, it is. Not even probably. It is better than any of the final 3 I picked. Sure. But I picked Dies the Fire by Stephen Sterling, which is about surviving a strange apocalypse, which would be very similar to the situation I found myself in. The Dragon Riders of Pern, which was one of my favorite series as a kid. Anne McCaffrey. Still have a huge soft spot for that series. I haven't read the later books that were written by her children. Because I'm afraid of them. Like, what if they're not good? What if, and then Tagana by Guy Gavriel Kay.
I can go with that. That is a great fantasy novel.
It's one of Melanie's favorites. That's why I picked it. No, I read it. It's really great. I mean, I thought of some of his other books, but that one kind of stood out. I was thinking of the Serantium duology, but I felt like I was pushing my luck with,
I actually used to own the Serantium duology in a 1 volume set. So that
would have worked then.
Anything that I have a physical copy of, like all the books in 1 physical copy, I think that goes.
I think I need
hypothesizing that there were a physical copy, that's different.
I think I really need to reread Tagana, because the Serantium duology is much more clear in my memory. I remember really liking Tagana, but I don't remember a lot of the story. So
you definitely need
to reread it. So there's a lot of stuff there, and it's the forum, the Ask Dom Anything forum, is still active there on the Discord. So if anyone wants to go and check them out and and see what you think, and I think you can comment on them. So if you have comments,
can people continue to ask you more questions?
If anyone wants to ask me a question, they can, I suppose. I mean, the forum itself is closed to new questions. So, but if if someone's got questions, I'll be happy to entertain them. You can throw them in the general channel or something like that. That would be fine. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I really enjoy it. It's a nice way to interact with folks, and to get people get to know me a little more than
to know you,
getting to know all about your weird quirks. So, speaking of weird quirks. I was telling someone about, I had a really good day with my word puzzles the other day. So you remember how a couple years ago during lockdown, everyone was doing Wordle. Was it even a couple years ago? Was it just like earlier this year?
I think it was last year, maybe.
I don't know. The 2020 to 2022 has seemed like one long year. Anyway, you know how the Wordle craze got started last year. So, and about the same time, a whole bunch of other word puzzle games got started. And you and I have picked up on some of them in common, some of them not. So there's the original Wordle, which the New York Times bought, and I'm still doing. I got it in 2 the other day. It was
nice.
like like my first word, and then I just figured out what the word was from that. I don't know how. Anyway, then there's Quordle, where you do 4 Wordles at a time.
Yeah, I never can't get into that.
And then there's Quordle, where you do 16 at once.
That's just crazy.
Well, it's actually not, because as you enter your guess, it enters into every single one at once.
Right. Yeah, I know that.
So that once you start getting a few, what you're also doing in the others is eliminating words and figuring out.
Right, but then by the time you get to the end, like, aren't they just like all pretty much solved? Like,
no. Actually, that's the fun bit, is that there's still plenty that it's like, wait a minute. Like there are times when I don't get them all. I mean, I get more days than not. I get it. I solve it, the whole thing. But there are days where I don't solve it in time. I run out of guesses. There's 2 map geography games. One called Wordle, which is hard to say, and Global, Globle. And they work a little differently. In Wordle, it shows you the silhouette or outline of a place, usually a country or an island, and that's it. And you just have to guess. You have 5 guesses.
I do that one occasionally. The other day, the one was Azerbaijan, which has a weird little chunk that's not connected to the rest of it. It looks like an island.
It looks like it detached from it. It's got it's like a similar shape.
Yeah, I totally thought it was a country that had an island off of the coast. And I'm like, what country shaped like that has an island? I was so confused.
Yeah, it's not. It's just it's separated by another part of another country.
I think Armenia goes between the 2 chunks of Azerbaijan.
Yes.
I'm learning geography.
Well, and that's the thing I like about it is learning geography. Well, the other one is it just shows you a globe and you have to enter words. Oh, and with Wordle, with each guess, it shows you, okay, the place you want is in that direction and is this many kilometers or miles away. I forget what it is.
Kilometers.
Okay. Global is different. It shows you the globe, and then it has a little space to enter the place. So you enter, you just have to guess someplace. So you don't
name of a country.
A name of a country. You don't have any hints what it is, and then it will say it's not that country because it almost never is. Although once it was. And then it says, and it's in that direction, that many kilometers.
No direction.
Yeah. No. It's just
a hot, cold. It gives you the country that you entered. It highlights it in a color.
If it's red, it means the country that you're looking for is really close. If it's white, it means you're way off. You're on the other side of the planet.
It's basically just like hot, cold.
Right. And then at the bottom, it will place it'll put your guesses in order. So the one that's closest is the one that is first in the list. So I like that one. I always start with the Democratic Republic of Congo because it's the biggest country in the middle of Africa.
Uh-huh.
So and there are a lot of countries in Africa. So if it's a country in Africa, it's easy it's a lot closer. And I don't know if picking the biggest is the best because then it's touching a lot of countries. I don't know. What I hate is when it's one of those little islands in the South Pacific, which drives me crazy trying to find those 16 guesses later. With Wordle, you only get 5 guesses. With Global, you can go on forever. You can guess every country in the world. So those 2, and then there's 2 other ones I've recently picked up. One called Waffle. And
I like Waffle.
Waffle it's a grid. It looks like a crossword grid, but it's the words are so it looks like a waffle. So it's a square, and you have 5-letter words that are all scrambled, and then there's crosswords too in the middle, and the corners are in the right place, as is the middle letter. But the other
always the corner? I thought it was different.
The corners are always in the right place, and the middle letter is always in the right place.
Oh,
the right letter.
You know what? I am so completely clueless. I never noticed that there was a pattern to which ones were in the right place or not.
And then letters that are in the right row or column, if it's on a cross, are in yellow, and letters that are not in the right row or column are just white, black letter on white. And you have 15 swaps to solve the whole puzzle. And this is a hard one. I think this one, I never have gotten better than 5 swaps remaining.
You can't get better than 5 swaps.
It's a minimum of 5 swaps. Okay.
Five swaps is the best score you can get.
Okay. Well, I sometimes get that. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's none, which is the thing. And then Susie, which, hello, did someone not get the memo that it has to end in L, like Wordle? Anyway, Susie, it shows you a pattern of a 5-letter word, and it will tell you the pattern in the word: consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. Okay, and then you guess, and it will tell you how many of the letters in that word that you guessed are correct. It won't tell you which ones, although you can. It has like a keyboard at the bottom. Eventually, you can do process of elimination. So if I say while, like WHILE, and then I try whole, WHOLE, it may tell me, O and I. O is the right one.
Right. I haven't figured out the pattern of like when it switches to telling you.
Well, it's really when you've eliminated. It's kind of tricky because it's a little opaque in when it's going to start showing the elimination of letters and the right word, letters that couldn't be possibly in it based on your guesses, and letters that could be. There's a very tricky algorithm.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out,
but I like it. I sometimes get it really quick, but I always solve it. I don't think it's ever taken me longer than longer than 8. I have 18. Most often it's 11 or less. Occasionally it takes me longer, but most often it's 11 or less. My most common numbers are 7, 8, and 11 guesses. So, and then that brings us to the last one, which is a different kind of puzzle game. It's called Redactyl, based on redaction.
I thought we'd mentioned that Redactyl.
Have we mentioned? Okay.
I don't know.
If in case we haven't,
it's my favorite.
Yes. It takes a random Wikipedia entry and removes all the major words and leaves only the minor words, which is articles, conjunctions like and, but, short verbs,
it leaves the prepositions. Sometimes it gives you like was and is, and sometimes it doesn't.
That's true.
They're not consistent in terms of eliminating the be verb.
Yeah, and so the be verb. I think you said the beaver. I'm like, what do you have against beavers? The verb to be. Yes. So it's fun because you have to start by just figuring out just the basic. What is it? Is it a person, place, or thing? Is it a modern thing or an old thing? Is it a play? Is it a country? Is it a
science concept?
Is it a math concept or whatever? So it can be fun. It can be really hard. I've had, hundreds of guesses. I've gotten it in recently. I got it in 4 guesses, so it's just a matter of it's a pattern matching. It's more a pattern matching game than it is a word puzzle game. So it's kind of fun. It's also tests your knowledge, your trivia knowledge of things as well. So I really enjoy puzzles. I do the daily crossword puzzle. I don't know what it is. I didn't used to really love puzzles. I thought people who did the crossword were weird, but maybe it's because I'm old. But I remember when we were first married, we used to do the crossword puzzle over dinner.
We did.
And one of the things I've heard is puzzle games keep your mind flexible. Your brain, neuroplasticity is one of the things that phrases I've heard, where you're exercising your brain, your memory, your ability to recall.
There's a couple more games that I play that you don't play.
Yes, you should mention
one of those is Artle, put on by the National Gallery, and it features 4 works of art by an artist, and you have to you get 4 guesses basically to figure out who the artist is. Which is fun.
Yep.
And then Framed, which gives you 6 chances to guess a movie based on stills from the movie.
Oh, fun.
Framed is hard because there's just a lot of movies I've never seen the movie. I've never even heard of it. But when I do recognize the movie, it's fun. I got Black Panther based on the first frame in Framed. It was the scene where they're standing outside the building in the US where his brother was living, the apartment building, and the ship is kind of coming through down through the clouds, and you see just the glow coming through the clouds with the building kind of in the foreground, like that shot looking upwards. I saw that and I said, oh, it's Black Panther. I was so proud of myself. Oh,
and when you type things, it will give you potential movie titles.
It gives you potential movie titles, but I don't know a lot of movies.
Not King Kong. So, this is Donnie Brasco, I think. I think you may have got me hooked on a new puzzle. Donnie. No, not Donnie Brasco.
Are you seriously doing a puzzle game while we're recording?
Yes. The Philadelphia Blades. Is it Rocky? It is. Yes. Nice.
There you go.
Yeah, I got it in 3.
You're probably going to be better at it than I am because you're like.
I know a lot more movies than you do. Yeah. I would guess that is a. I'm gonna get links for these so I can put them in the show notes. It's a occupational hazard is the word I'm trying to.
Right.
Yes. Right. Artle is at nga.gov/artle.html. I've seen other ones. Hurdle, which is a song one, like
Oh, I tried to play that one, and I am not good at recognizing songs from the first
If you're old enough,
notes.
If you're old as I am, you remember I can name that song in 2 notes.
Yeah, that's. I am not good at that.
No, I don't know if I'd be good at that. There's probably a lot of contemporary music and that sort of stuff. So
even songs I really know well, I don't recognize the first few bars.
If you folks know have any games that we haven't mentioned that you thought we think we'd be interested in, I'd love to hear about them and share them on the podcast and let everyone else know about them. Because again, I love games like these little puzzles and they're fun. I've definitely added frames. You started
telling us an anecdote about doing the puzzles and getting a whole bunch of a streak of winning a bunch.
Oh yeah. So the other day I was like, I did Wordle in 2. Then I did Quordle in the minimum, which is not uncommon. Then I got Global in 1. And then I got Worldle in 1. And I did like the Redactyl in, I think that was the one I did in 10. That was one of those Louvre or Paris. Yeah, I think it was the Louvre one. It was really quick. And it was like Susie, I did really quick, in 4 or something like that. I'm trying to think, I was bragging about it on a different Discord that I was on. Let me see if I can go back to where I was bragging about it.
Anyway,
yeah. And so I got told, you should probably go buy a lottery ticket. I'm like, yeah, maybe I should. I didn't. But my luck was good that day. Anyway, so that's what's been going on. So we went to my brother's house for a Labor Day pool party, Labor Day weekend, and were to bring a dish. And you brought a pasta salad, a new one.
Did you say pasta?
I thought I might get that by you. That I didn't mean to say pasta salad.
It's okay. I'll tell about a slip up of words that I did today that was even more embarrassing.
Oh, good.
We were at mass and the priest said, the Lord be with you. And you were supposed to say, and with your spirit.
Yeah.
For some reason I said, and with your servant. What the heck came out of my mouth? I heard the people behind me whispering, and with your servant? Did you just say that? Seriously?
I'm from the Balkan Catholic Rite Church.
Okay, so anyway, a pasta salad.
You get to a certain age and weird things start popping out of your mouth.
No kidding.
Anyway, pasta salad.
I wanted to make a lemony pasta salad that I've had in the past. And so it was from Cooks Illustrated. I went to look up the recipe and I couldn't find it. It wasn't on the website, or at least I couldn't find it on my phone. I found another pasta salad recipe where they suggested that in order to get the sauce to really stick to your pasta, you don't want just a thin dressing. So they suggested taking pepperoncini and capers and blending them into a puree that would stick to the pasta. I said, that sounds really good, but I'm going to go one better. So I made a puree of pepperoncini and capers, But also, I added some olives, some roasted red peppers, and some sun-dried tomatoes.
You gilded the lily on that one.
I totally did. and a clove of garlic. And it was so good.
Yes.
So I tossed that on the pasta salad, and then I added some sliced olives and have cherry tomatoes and fresh basil and some cheese, some pepper jack cheese and artichoke hearts and other stuff to the pasta salad. But I also forgot, I added lemon juice to the
dressing.
The dressing.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It was very good. I just had some more for dinner tonight after we got home. And did you also do the thing where the tip about the cooking the pasta?
They also suggested overcooking the pasta 3 minutes past whatever the box said was al dente, because pasta, when it gets cold, firms up. So in order to have a pasta salad which tastes al dente, you want to overcook it a little bit
because it's served cold. If you cook it too al dente, then when you serve it cold, it's going to be tough, right,
instead of soft. Anyway, so I did that too.
It was really good.
It had a really intense flavor.
Yeah,
because that puree really stuck to the pasta and got in. I used rotini, and it really got into the grooves of the rotini. So, your dad, however, would not touch it.
Why?
I don't know. He was very skeptical. He's like, it's not spaghetti. It's got a weird shape to it. I don't want that.
Rotini is
I don't know. He was being very cantankerous.
Yeah. Well, my dad.
I was hurt.
In any case, well, he's a 90-year-old man who's maybe his dentures wouldn't work on it. It was really good. So, I guess something like that to try. It's different. It's different from a lot of the pasta salads. It's not that a lot of pasta salad has got the celery. I don't really like the celery the celery is fine. The green bell pepper that I find in a lot of pasta salads, it's off-putting.
Yeah,
because it's too much crunch with the soft pasta, and it's too bitter.
Way too bitter.
Yeah. So give this a try. And the tapenade thing was good. And it's
also I made way too much of the dressing, and I just put the excess in a bowl and used it for dipping with bread. And I'm gonna make that again, just as a tapenade dipping sauce for bread.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that was good.
And all stuff from jars, so I didn't have to
There wasn't any cooking. Anything. Yeah, it was apart from the pasta, you didn't have to cook anything. Yeah, jarred oil, sun-dried tomatoes in oil.
Right.
Jarred roasted real bell peppers in oil. Then you did Kalamata and...
I did both Kalamata and Manzanilla olives.
Okay.
Because I like both of them.
Yep. And the pepperoncini, I buy the ones that are already sliced, but and you use some of the brine from each. Yeah. So to taste,
I just threw a bunch of stuff in my little immersion blender cup and then blended it up.
Yeah, you could. I
did not measure.
You could do it in a food processor, in a blender, or whatever.
Yeah.
StarQuest wants to hear from you. We're conducting a survey of our audience. That's you, to help us in our planning for the future. Please take a moment and visit sqpn.com/survey. We'll be selecting 2 participants to receive an Amazon gift card as an expression of our thanks. So visit sqpn.com/survey today. So let's talk about things we've been watching and reading. I watched the first 2 episodes of Rings of Power. You will hear me talking about that on the Secrets of Middle-earth podcast this week, and I recommend you check it out because we've got a great panel there. It's going to be a really good discussion.
I am holding off on that series until the final verdicts are in, and then I will decide whether or not to watch it after the series is done. Because
you are a skeptic.
First impressions have not been rousing.
Yeah, well, I like it. I do. It is. There are some variations from Tolkien. One thing I will say is they were smart in setting it in a time period where Tolkien did not write a lot in detail about the goings on of that world. That said, there are changes in some of the characters. Galadriel's a slightly different person.
Although one would expect her to have been a different person way back when.
No, different from what Tolkien wrote about her at the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I would have expected, like, if Galadriel hadn't changed a lot in...
No, I like the fact that they're different here than they are later. Like, then, the Galadriel of this is different from the Galadriel set of in the Lord of the Rings, because time has passed and it's a different age and the elves are fading. So the elves of the Lord of the Rings have been fading. This is the elves not quite at their peak, but not far from the first age. There's still a second age. They're still powerful and in the world and that sort of thing. So yeah, only 2 episodes so far. So it's hard to gauge. I'd give it a B, I think is my grade for the first 2 episodes. We'll see how it goes. I saw something today that makes me worry, though. No, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has to do with who Galadriel is and who she is supposed to be with. Let's put it that way. But you've been watching some things.
I have.
So why don't you tell us about that?
Okay, so first of all, I watched the entire run of The Sandman on Netflix, which is based on the comic strip by Neil Gaiman.
The graphic novel.
Graphic novel.
Yes.
Not comic strip. Yeah. I never read the graphic novel, but back in the day, my sister and her roommate were very into it. And so I heard about it. And my sister was very excited about the show coming out. And so she's been talking about it. And I wasn't going to watch it at first, but she talked me into it. And I watched the whole run, all of the episodes, because I just wanted to kind of get through it and get it over with. The visuals were stunning. It's a really, really beautiful show. They're trying to match up to a graphic novel, and I think that they probably succeeded. I can't talk to the closeness to the source material.
Right.
And the storylines, some of them were really intriguing. The one episode about where we meet Death was really, really, I liked it a lot. There were some episodes which were incredibly, deeply, darkly disturbing because it's a story about dreams. The protagonist is Dream himself, Morpheus.
He's the personification
of sleep and dreams.
Okay.
And with dreams come nightmares. So it's a story about dreams and aspirations and hopes, but it's also about nightmares and terrors and fears. And it plumbs into some of the deepest, darkest places where people can go. And it does it in ways that were fairly graphic. And I found it really disturbing. I would say that if you are easily disturbed, this is probably not the show for you. If you don't mind things like a convention of serial killers reveling in death and destruction, then this, there might be not putting something that will put you off, but it got dark. It got really, really dark. This was the first season. Like there's anticipated, like definitely they set it up for a second season.
So what's the premise?
So the premise is a magician in England captures sleep. He's trying to capture death, I think, but he captures sleep in like a prison and imprisons him for like 100 years. And during that time, some of the nightmares get loose on Earth, which is where things get really dark, and start running amok.
Okay.
And during the time when he's in prison, some of the things kind of keep chugging along, but some people get trapped in like a sleepy sickness where they just fall asleep and they can't wake up. And then some people can't fall asleep. So like basically dreams and sleeping kind of get disordered for a while.
Okay.
And then eventually he manages to break out, and then he has to go back, and the magician had taken his like objects of power, like a mask, his bag of sand, and this ruby, and they had got scattered, and he has to go on a quest to find them and then to put his realm back together after having been in prison, and then after having gone on this quest, the character kind of goes through a period of like, I'm not quite sure who I am and what I'm doing anymore, which is the episode where he goes and meets his sister Death and follows her through a round of her day, like going and watching people die. And we also meet a character who has escaped death based on a bet that Sleep and Death had, and who Sleep has been meeting every 100 years for a few centuries. It's a really interesting, like, I think that at times Neil Gaiman's storytelling makes me feel like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and very clever playing with tropes, but I'm not always sure if we're getting at something which is true.
Okay.
In the sense, like, the best stories tell you something true about the human condition, but there are times when it really does feel like he's really saying something deep and profound and true. Sometimes it just kind of feels a little bit more clever and glib playing with tropes rather than using the tropes to find out or to say something that's deeper.
I have found that Neil Gaiman's and other things I've seen where he's written for TV have sometimes been very cleverly written, very cleverly plotted, but don't say much. They're kind of, in the end, they're kind of empty of having something deeper to say. Now, sometimes he has some really good things that he does where he really does have something good and deeper to say. So and I don't want to rule him out altogether.
Right. I don't want to badmouth it because I did find it had some interesting points, but I felt like overall it wasn't quite as moving as I hoped it might be. Or maybe I need to ponder it more because sometimes my first take on things tends to be more shallow. And then I come back to it. I'd like to talk to my sister about it and have her tell me what she liked about the story.
Right.
But she hasn't actually finished watching the show yet. So I sped past her.
Okay.
I also watched the first, I think, 6 episodes of Severance, which you had told me about.
Yes.
Which is another storyline which has to do with kind of weird, bizarre, dreamy things that you're not quite sure what's going on. In tone, the two actually were kind of similar. So it was interesting to watch them back to back.
That's interesting. I mean, to me, Severance reminds me a lot of Lost.
I keep feeling like I'm in La La Nightmare Land in Severance. Like, this feels very surreal, and I would not be completely surprised if at some point it was all a dream, or I keep waiting for some sort of twist where it's going to be not at all what we think is going on.
Right. Well, there is more going on. Definitely. There are some twists that are coming as well. But it's clearly a kind of metaphor for corporate work life.
Right. What's weird, though, about the metaphor for corporate work life is I would almost expect in a story which is portraying corporate work life as being incredibly disordered, that you would have a strong contrast between the world inside and the world outside, with the world outside being beautiful and pretty and the world inside the corporate work culture being very disordered. But what was interesting about Severance so far is that the outside world is every bit as disturbing as the inside world.
Well, every bit. Yeah. Well,
it's
every bit is empty and
it's
drab and plain.
It's surreal and creepy. Like his sister's whole experience of birth, and frankly, his sister's husband is like Mr.
He's funny.
He's creepy.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's kind of an idiot.
Like there's the whole thing where she's at this birth center and it's just surreal. It's weird. And like the people she meets are just weird.
Well, see, I'm trying not to spoil it.
No.
There's a reason that the outside and the inside.
I mean, I suppose the feeling I'm getting right now is it's a corporate town, and so the town culture is being determined by the Lumen Corporation.
Yeah. I mean, there's something like that. Yes. There's more going on. In fact, you've seen the people protesting against the Severance thing, and there's just the idea of if we could separate our consciousness like that, we would begin to think of, like, they're not two people. They talk about themselves as if they're two people, but they're really not two different people. They are still the same person. It's just
right.
And it's kind of weird, like how they refer to themselves as if that's work me versus home me. And this is what people do this now, though. Like, I have people talk about having a work husband or work wife, it's weird. They have this work person that they are, and then they have a home person that they are, and they have this division between who they are at work and who they are at home, and they're very almost very different. And
I guess I'm not really running into that anywhere in my life, so I'm not seeing a real life counterpart to this.
Most people I know aren't like that either, but I've heard, I've read about it, people talking about how they have this personality and that they have a work spouse, which is, I think they mean just like someone who's a very close friend. I'm pretty sure they don't mean anything, untoward like that, I hope. But like someone who that they confide in and that they're very close to, and that they're like them against the world sort of thing. I don't know. I think that's weird. But Severance is I think it's a brilliant series because it's so bizarre, but yet so compelling. And I want to know more. And even by the end of the season, they tell you some stuff. It's like Lost. As much as they tell you, there's even more mystery, beyond that. And so there's more to know. So I'm enjoying it. So, cool. So that and Severance, and then you had a couple books that you finished.
I did. I was busy reading as well as watching.
Busy.
Because I was sick.
Yes.
I was sick in bed, and so I wasn't really doing much with the kids, and you were cooking dinners, thank God. And I spent way too much time staying up late at night because I couldn't sleep with my cough. So I read 2 novels from Lois McMaster Bujold. I had previously read her Vorkosigan saga of science fiction novels, and so I decided to check out her fantasy novels. I read The Curse of Chalion and Paladin of Souls.
I've heard several people recently talking about The Curse of Chalion and how wonderful it is.
Really liked it. So it's a fantasy world, and basically there's a country and the royal family is under a curse, and our main character, unbeknownst to himself, gets drafted into being part of the solution to the curse. What was fascinating is that she creates a pantheon of gods and a religious system, which is fairly standard fantasy trope, but she really digs into the theology of her system. Like, she has people who in the world who study works of theology. And what was fascinating is that the theology is actually key to the plot of the novel. So the relationship between the people and the gods isn't background, it's foreground. Like, that's the stuff of the story. And so it's interesting. It gets into sort of, what is a saint in her world? What is a person who talks directly to the gods and intercedes between gods and men? And I feel like very often the fundamental ideas that she's exploring feel very Christian in a way. There's a lot about self-sacrifice and death to self, and the idea that the gods can't work in human affairs without a human being willing to say yes and to open themselves up to becoming the instrument of the divinity in a way that feels very much true to my own experience. Like God, of course, God can work in the world, but Saint Teresa of Avila says, God has no hands but yours. And I think that this is kind of exploring that idea of like, what if God really were limited? What if the gods really were limited and could not work in the world except if human beings became willing conduits for their power? So that there's no way that the divinity can enter into the world except through people who say yes. And then what happens if you're a person who doesn't really want to say yes, but the gods keep like throwing you into situations where you are trying to run away? And it's interesting because I feel like the main character becomes God touched from a place of despair, a despondency. It's sort of the out of the depths I cry to you because life is horrible and I am at the limits of what I can handle. I think that's what felt truest to me, is that de profundis moment that the character reaches several times in the story, which was really profound. Like it felt like it was saying something very true about the spiritual life and the spiritual experience. And then the second novel, Paladin of Souls, I liked even more. It's a novel which takes as its protagonist a 40-something-year-old widow who's got grown kids and grandkids. And she is trapped in a castle by a whole bunch of servants who really, really care for her and pamper her and protect her and don't want to let her out in the world. And she's going mad because she wants something out of life. And she doesn't know who she is because she spent her entire life in these roles of daughter and then mother and wife, and then daughter-in-law taking care of, or daughter taking care of her mother, as her mother in her mother's last years. And with the novel begins after the death of her mother, and now she's like alone in the world. Her daughter's off ruling the country, and she doesn't have anything to do. She doesn't have any meaningful work or meaningful role. And she's like, I'm 40-something years old, and I don't know who I am or what I want to be. And she's lost any sense of ambition or self or dreams. And so she wants to escape out into the world and go on pilgrimage to figure out, who am I? I mean, that is a great setup for a novel.
Especially if you're a 40-something mother.
Especially, yeah. I mean, it's, I'm in a different stage of life because my kids aren't grown, but I really felt so closely connected to Ista because I'm like, this is great. There should be more novels written about 40-something-year-old women going on quests. Because it's an interesting age. I mean, it's an interesting age. It is an age, like once you are an empty nester, like there is this sort of, what is my life about now?
You know, what would be interesting is a novel about empty nester couple going on a quest, husband and wife. What are we now? Let us go on a quest.
Yeah. And this was fun. It was a great quest novel. Again, interesting interactions with the divine because it's a pilgrimage that she goes on. And so it is a quest where she's using the pilgrimage as a pretext to get out of the castle beyond her protectors who are trying to coddle her for her own good. But if you go on a pilgrimage, you're inviting the divine into your life, even if the pilgrimage is just a pretext.
Right.
And so there is that sort of moment where she opens herself up to finding a vocation, a calling, a second vocation, which is kind of cool.
Good. That sounds good. I like I said, I've heard good things about Chalian's Curse, so I'm going to definitely have to check that out, especially, and then maybe on the next one. It reminds me a bit of the depths. The first one reminds me of the depths of the exploration of religion in Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. Not the same sort of thing, but relatedly he is exploration. So really interesting. Cool. So let's talk about our Catholic topic, which is going to be the readings for this week and the homily that we heard. Our celebrant for Mass today was Father Pinto, who is from the why can't I never remember it? What is the order? The
Holy Cross.
The Holy Cross Fathers. The Father Peyton Fathers, and so he's the he was the celebrant, and but the first two readings were. As you no doubt heard, where the first one was from the Book of Wisdom. And one thing I pulled away from that was where it says, scarce do we guess the things on earth, and what is within our grasp we find with difficulty. But when things are in heaven, who can search them out? And as I was reading, I was thinking, it's hard enough to know the things of the natural world, is what I think that's saying. Like, think of how hard it is to learn geography or algebra or whatever, just the things,
or botany or chemistry,
just the things of this that are natural. Now, to understand the supernatural is even harder, and as the Book of Wisdom tells us, requires the Holy Spirit to understand it, the supernatural, the spiritual world. So I thought that was an interesting message in that reading.
Yeah, that jumped out at me too, actually.
Yeah. The second reading was the Book of Philemon, where Paul, an old man, he's got this servant that Philemon had sent him, Onesimus, really a slave, but he was a Christian. And Paul is sending Onesimus back to Philemon, not as a slave any longer, but as a brother Christian. And he says, I'm sending him back, although I wish I could keep him, but I don't want to do anything without your consent. So that the good you do might not be forced, but voluntary. And I thought that was an interesting insight. Like, I could keep him and credit that good to you. Like, you sent me Onesimus for a time, and I'm going to keep him and say, that Philemon, what a great guy. He did some good. And Philemon would be like, well, I guess you can keep him. I don't have any choice. And then the good is not really Philemon's choice. But if he sends Onesimus back to Philemon and Philemon sends Onesimus back to Paul, then that is a choice that Philemon has made. And I think that is interesting because it's sort of an explanation of free will.
Yeah, that struck me too. Like I want you to choose the good, not to have the good chosen for you.
Right. This is the nature of God's relationship with us, is God does not force us to do good. He gives us the opportunity to do good. And there's a big difference.
And I like that Paul teaches that by example.
Through a concrete example. Yeah. The story, Paul, an old man, is sending this guy back to you. And so if you regard me as a partner, welcome him as you would me. And it's just this little, letter of recommendation, but it's got a very deep and important message in it. I really like that. So, but to get to Father Pinto's homily, because it's the anniversary of the death of Mother Teresa, 24 years ago, he wanted to talk about the missionaries of charity. Father Pinto is from India. He's Indian. So obviously it's very close to his heart. And
he also said he had three
sisters who are missionaries of charity, which then at one point he referenced one of them as a cousin. So I don't know if he meant like three relatives. Like he said biological sisters, so maybe he like three relatives.
Or maybe he has three biological sisters who are missionaries of charity and a cousin.
That's possible too. But so he knows missionaries of charity. He was mentioning how they've grown by 1/3 since the death of Mother Teresa, which no surprise, Mother Teresa's in heaven praying for them, interceding for them. So they've grown, and of course women would be called, as Mother Teresa has become a saint. He described them as like they put Jesus first and carry their cross, which is I think is a reference to the gospel, right? Whoever does not carry his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. And so, as you're saying, is the very charism of the missionaries of charity is that they lay down everything. They get to visit their families once a decade. They live very simply. They pray an hour in adoration every day. and they care for the poorest of the poor everywhere. They seek out those who are at the lowest level and go to them. And he mentions one of them had said to them, one of the missionaries had said to him, what we do may be a drop in the ocean, but without the drop, the ocean is still diminished. I thought that was a really good point. Like, it's often used as a way to, dismiss something. Look, it's just a drop in the ocean. It's not going to make a difference. No, it does. Like, even without that one drop, the ocean is still diminished. Every drop, every person matters immensely.
And it means the universe of difference to the individual people that they help. Like, each person that they meet
is an ocean,
right? So the ocean of souls, it might be a drop in, but for each individual, it's their entire world.
When I was editor of Catholic World Report magazine, we would annually get these stories, articles from a Father X. He remained anonymous. He was a priest, a religious order priest living in Rome, who at Christmas would travel to one of the missionaries of charity houses somewhere around the world, where in one of the poorest places where they, like they said, they always go to spend Christmas with them, celebrating the sacraments for them and serving them however he could. And they were such amazing stories. It was one where he was in Romania, where they were running an orphanage for children who had been discarded. And this was at the very end. This is within a decade of the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of the Warsaw Pact. And it was still really bad. And he talked about the sisters who just, I think it was in Romania, where they were living in a shipping container.
I think that was, I remember that one.
And they gave him the best space. So he had like a little separate area, a little separate room where he had a wash basin to wash in. And like, it was primitive. Another year he went to Cairo, and it just talked about how, these really desperately poor places. And yet the sisters were always full of joy and kindness and faith. And it was always I always came away from these articles with tears in my eyes and with joy in my heart that there are women like this out there doing this still. So just amazing. He quoted somebody, a writer. I don't remember who it was. I didn't write it down. What I regret most in life is failure of kindness.
He, meaning Father Pinto, or
Well, he quoted somebody.
Yeah, but not the Father X who was writing.
No, Father Pinto quoted somebody. Sorry.
Shifting back in time.
Yep, sorry. So going back to the homily. So Father Pinto quoted somebody, what I regret most in life is a failure of kindness. And I think it was someone writing a memoir at the end of their life. And so, in other words, whenever I have failed to be kind, those are the things that stick with me. Those are the memories that really stick with me as regrets. Kindness is, and then he challenged everyone to think of someone in your life who you hold in high regard, who is very dear to you, and think of the memories of them that are most treasured by you, and they will probably be memories of kindness done to you. So be kind. And then he says, love is a fruit always in season. Delve into that for a little bit. So just maybe pray on that for a while. I just want to leave you with that. But as always, Father Pinto is himself always full of joy as he celebrates the Mass. He's always smiling, always happy, always a pleasure to see him and hear him. So it was really nice. So that should do it. We'll take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Raising the Bets, including Michelle K., Christian B., Clarice R., and Ray M. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue Raising the Bets and all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So you'll find links from our discussion in our show notes at sqpn.com/bets. That's BETTS. You can send your feedback to the SQPN Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Send an email to bets@sqpn.com, or come visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord and check out all those AMA questions. Follow Raising the Bets in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or at the StarQuest YouTube channel, where you should also make sure to hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time, I'm Don Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Middle-earth. Find it wherever you can find podcasts or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth.